Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Enneagram and Coaching. I'm Hillary, your Enneagram Coach, type 9, and today I have the amazing privilege of interviewing a type 1. A type 1, guys. All right, let them know. Who are you? What's your name? You know, anything you can think about yourself.
Oh my goodness. Hi you guys, my name's Claire. I'm an Enneagram type 1 wing 2 and I love all things Enneagram and coffee and everything that has to do about talking life and how the Enneagram plays into it.
Yeah, and you're in college?
Yes.
What year of college?
So this is my final year in college. It's actually my third year, so I'm graduating a year early. So that'll be nice.
Type 1.
Very type 1 of me, yes.
Very type 1 of you. Awesome. Yeah. And I heard that you said you already know your wing, a type 2.
Yes.
Or a 1 with a 2 wing.
Yes.
Like, she just made my job so much easier, guys. This is gonna be awesome.
We're here to streamline.
Yeah, we're here to streamline. All right, so let's dig in. All right, guys, so what is the type 1? Well, they're known as the perfectionist, the reformer. They like to be known as the good person, right? And they want to usually do the right thing, be good. What about that grabs onto you?
I think a lot of times, especially with the perfectionist aspect of being a type 1, that's really like where the goodness comes to it. So striving for perfection and striving for being good and being right almost. And that's where we can kind of get into a little bit of like unhealthy characteristics of always needing to be right. But that really resonates with me, especially in that aspect, and also the reforming aspect too. It's always about seeking constant improvement, ways to make things better, ways to make things more right in that sense, but also just finding ways that works for everyone as well.
Right. And actually, you kind of hit on that, trying to find everything and make things right and all of that. That's the superpower of a 1, right? Have you heard that?
Yes, I've heard that.
Okay,
it's like,
so
yes.
It's a superpower because we can kind of, think of it like, oh, they're always finding all the negatives. They walk in a room and they can like see what's wrong. But we also have to realize, as long as that's not an unhealthy thing, it's more of a like, I see what's wrong, but I want to help fix it, right?
Yes.
And so I've heard that. So that's not a negative thing. That's a really positive thing when used in the right way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I totally agree too because, and I've talked with you about this before too, but one of the things that really just bothers me is when people do walk into a room and they just point everything out that's wrong.
Right.
And it really does bother me because they don't offer a solution to fix it.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times 1s get that bad rap of coming in with this really critical eye and even like a critical spirit about things and just walking in and going, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that needs to be fixed. And like my response is always, so let's fix it. Let's find ways to make it better. Let's find ways to make it work for everyone. And that's where I think the really good side of my 1 comes in, where it's like, let's find solutions rather than just pointing things out and leaving it to others to fix.
Right. Awesome. I love that. And we have talked about that before, and I remember that, where you were like, no. It's not just about finding the issue, but it's about being part of the solution too.
Yes, absolutely.
So, super important.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move into the core fears and core desires of a 1.
Yes.
All right.
Let's go.
Awesome. All right, so the core fear of a 1 being bad, evil, being wrong, and the core desire is being good, balanced, and accurate. And so do those core fears and core desires just like really hit home for you?
They really do, and especially with the wrongness and being like corrupted or like bad, because a lot of times, especially growing up too, like that message is really instilled, like, you cannot be wrong. And so a lot of times I would associate the two together. I would say like, if this was bad, it was also wrong and vice versa. And so they worked in tandem with one another. So a lot of times if I made a mistake, I instantly assumed that I was bad or I was wrong. And so like those two like balanced with each other constantly. And so that was and became my core fear. And it's something that I've definitely had to work through. And also with core desires too, it's something that being good, and I think that can kind of look different across different ones. Like what our definition of good is might change person to person. And so like using voices to advocate for things like that to me is good. And like using your voice to advocate for others is good. Or just like achieving things and being proud of what I do is something that I define as good. But that can look different for other people too.
No, that's a great point. And it reminds me that your wounded childhood message is it's not okay to make mistakes. Right? And so for you now as an adult, I can totally just like the health of you does radiate off. And so I'm wondering, like, how do you kind of silence that voice now, that it is okay to make mistakes?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I was just thinking about this too, where for so long growing up, especially, I had a crippling fear of failure. Yeah. Like I had this crippling fear of just making a mistake because I associated it with being wrong or bad. I associated making a mistake or failing or maybe getting in trouble with being bad. Right. And that was always something that my inner critic or like that part of me would always just be like, you messed up, you're bad, you're corrupted, and it was really hard to work through. And so a huge level of growth for me was realizing that failures don't make you bad, they help you be better.
Wow.
And so it was a lot of,
That's good stuff.
right there.
Wow.
It was a lot of reframing my mentality of, it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes because you can learn from them.
Yeah.
And so if I was able to reframe it to a more positive aspect of being a one of me seeking constant improvement and reforming things, if I can reframe failure to, this is an opportunity to reform, and this is an opportunity to improve things. And so that's how I really got over that too, of just being like, you know what? And now I like embrace mistakes. Now I love it because it's something that I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is such an opportunity for learning and growth. And so like to a point where it's like, I'm not afraid to fail at all. I'll start something and I'll just be like, yeah, if we fail, that's great. That's a great learning opportunity.
I am so impressed right now. Like seriously, I mean, I know a lot of ones. Obviously, I'm an Enneagram coach. I know that is such a level of health and knowing that you're God's beloved and knowing that his love doesn't change.
Yes.
Right? And that was probably super important for you to know. Yeah. As soon as you can hear his promises and read his promises, but own his promises and know they are for you, and know that making a mistake doesn't make you bad. The freedom that I'm literally seeing in front of me right now. That's what you get.
Yeah, and I think a big part of being a one, and especially when you look to just like seeking God in that, is that you find grace is something that you walk in. And grace has been so huge to me as a one, because it's not only the grace that I embrace that God offers me every single day, but it's also the grace that in turn I can offer to others and I can offer to myself too. And so it's that matter of walking in that confidence, knowing that there is grace and there is abundant love, even if I make a mistake, even when I fail, because it's inevitable. But even when that happens, knowing and relying and being confident in that grace that's offered to me is just far beyond. And that's where I really find growth too.
Wow. I mean, that is a fabulous like answer, and I could just feel it in your core that it's something that you live out and really believe. So, okay guys, if you're a one, I mean, that was some good stuff. That was. So, all right, so let's move on to the arrows. Awesome. So do you know your arrows of the one? Because you study the Enneagram, and so she probably knows, she probably knows a lot of what I know.
Yeah, sure, So under growth, I move towards a type 7. That's my growth arrow. And so that's really where I embrace a lot of spontaneity. That's where I really embrace life as it comes to me. I loosen up a little bit. I feel like a lot of times that can be a big thing for a ones. I've heard you say before, ones are probably the best type on vacation. I am. I love that good time of rest and times where I can really just let go of a few things and really embrace life as it comes at me. I become more of a type B personality than a type A all the time. But
can I just stop? That was really cool. I've never heard that. A type B personality instead of type A.
Because I constantly find myself always being type A, type A, type A, and then when I can finally relax for a bit, I can embrace life as it comes at me, not dictate where life goes.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. Okay, and then in stress?
And then in stress, I go towards a type 4. And so that's usually when I can kind of, see myself becoming a little more emotional, becoming a little more just moody. And I do want to say, like, emotions aren't a bad thing. I think a lot of times, like,
God gave us the emotions.
Exactly. Like, praise God for emotions. And a lot of times I think that's been me overcoming that, of just being like afraid of emotions and stifling them down a lot, because I'm always so fearing of going towards that unhealthy arrow. And that's, again, hitting on my core fear of being bad. And so a lot of times I've associated having emotions with being bad. And so it's become like a growing process of being like, okay, it's okay to feel these things. But I also have a lot of introspection of how much am I feeling things, and really taking on the unhealthy side of a 4 of irrationality.
Yeah.
It's like, when are my emotions becoming irrational? When are they dictating how I feel, how I act? And am I becoming hypercritical of things? Am I becoming like emotionally charged? Are my decisions being made out of emotions? Or am I really just feeling emotions, which is a good thing?
Honestly, it's a rumble strip, right? And you actually, as you were speaking, like, it became clear for you and for all of us that when we are going towards that stress arrow, that's not a I'm bad and you're feeling those emotions of going towards it. That's a rumble strip of like, okay, why?
Yes.
Right? So that emotion, the moodiness or being irrational is coming through. So that actually is just an emotion where you get to say, okay, where's the root of that coming from?
Yes.
You know, and then actually take that to the Lord and deal with that versus being like, I'm just moody today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And just saying, too bad, when I'm under stress, that I get to go towards a 4 and you have to deal with that. But that's not how it works.
Yes.
Right? That's just our, like, we're going towards this.
Yeah.
Okay, pull it back.
Yep.
What's really going on?
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Emotions are not bad, guys.
They aren't. Feel them.
Feel them. It's important.
It's okay. Yes.
And you know, there's some types that I really want to be like, feel them.
Yes.
Won't call you out today, but they're not bad. And I love that you said that. And I just pray that even right now, if you're watching this, that's giving you freedom right now. That you can claim that and know, like, that's your freedom from the Lord. That just because you might be going towards the 4 doesn't mean you're bad, doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means that you need to kind of reassess of like, okay, what am I afraid of? What's going on right now? And deal with that.
Yes.
And go to the root. So that was good.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. So moving on. How did you feel when you found out you were a 1? How did you find that out? Did you take a test? What was your process?
So originally when I first discovered the Enneagram, it was given to me in the form of a test. And so I tested, I got a 1, and I really just instantly was like, what does that mean?
Okay.
And so I really dug into that. I read through all of the types, and I really found it was interesting to see like how I interact with other types. That was kind of became my basis of this does resonate with me a little bit more. And then I dug more into those core fears, those core just values that I have.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me. And that resonated above all the other types. Because there were definitely some types that I was like, oh, I really empathize with that. I empathize with that feeling. But at my core, I could just feel I am a 1. And I've heard it said too where like the type description that you think like hurts the most, almost like, oh, ouch, that's me. Yep.
I'm sorry. That's not me. But
but it's like, oh, yep, maybe that is me. Definitely definitely it.
Yeah, you're right though. If it makes you uncomfortable, it's more than likely yours.
Yes.
If you don't want to be it, it's probably yours. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even like the opposite too. I found that things that they would describe 1s being, like a lot of times they see 1s as like they seek like justice for the injustice. And a lot of times like that was one where like I felt like I could stand in my chair and be like, yes, this is me.
Yeah.
And like that was above every other kind of type. And that was like, yep. If that resonated so highly with me, along with the ones that resonated so lowly, I was also like, that's it.
Exactly.
1 to my core.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like what you were saying too, we are all types.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of all of them in us. But it's that core fear, that core desire, what really resonated to your soul, which is why you know your dominant type is a 1.
Yes.
Right? All right, so let's talk about the wings of a 1.
Yes.
The 2 wings of a 1, so 1 is your dominant type. You can either have a 9 wing or a 2 wing. They are always on either side of your dominant type. You can't be any other wing if your dominant type is a type 1. And so for you, I know your wing, but why don't you let them know what your wing is? What does that mean? How do you know that that's your wing?
Yeah, so I am a 1 wing 2, and so I take on certain aspects of a type 2. And for me, what that looks like is a lot of times it's that helping aspect of it too. And so it's seeking to help out others, being a little more empathetic to others' needs. One of the ways that I really contextualize it is being able to roll up my sleeves and really like do the job, get the job done in order to help others. And that's something that I've said too. That's something that I've said that I love to do, is that I love being faced with a challenge or a task and then the opportunity just to roll up my sleeves and get it done. And if it helps others, oh my goodness, that brings me so much gratitude and joy too.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. And that definitely is a 1 wing too.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I want to get into a little bit more of a fun subject, and I want to know, what is Claire's type 1 pet peeves?
Oh goodness. So I feel like I have so many, which is like really like fun. It's like, and it's not always like I can pull on them. Usually it's when they're happening that I'm like,
Yep,
I'm annoyed. Pet peeve number. And I'm just like, oh no.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. But one of my big pet peeves is when like others aren't giving their full attention. And so I do find that I get really, really frustrated when I'm in a meeting or in a lecture and I just hear side conversations behind me or next to me. I can hear people talking about a completely different subject while someone is talking, like while someone of authority is speaking. And it really rubs me the wrong way because it's really, to me, it's a sign of disrespect. And so it rubs me the wrong way in that sense where I'm just like, you're not giving the respect to someone that is commanding the respect, that's worthy of respect for the knowledge they're giving you or for something that you don't know anything about. So why do you feel your needs are more important in this aspect, which is the hypercritical side of me coming out too. And I often find like a lot of times I'll be sitting there just like stewing almost, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're doing this right now. And I have to always like reframe like, okay, chill out for a second.
Like, okay,
because now I'm
their type.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like what's their type and why do they feel they need to do this? And then it's also just like refocusing me. It's like, okay, well now I've lost focus on what's going on right now because I'm too busy fixated on someone else. And so it's really like, that's a huge pet peeve of mine, especially when people are just not giving their attention.
Right. What I love about you is how self-aware you are. Like you're extremely self-aware, which I'm always teaching that is such a huge important piece of growing and being healthy.
Yes.
Is owning some of these parts that we're like, that's kind of an ego thing.
Yeah.
But if we own them, there's freedom.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
So I love that. You're very self-aware. All right, we can move on. I think we got enough pet peeves.
Cool. I was going to say, I was like, we could go all day on just my one pet peeves.
I'm sorry, I got a list.
I was just going to say, I was like, well.
I love it. Okay, so moving on to what pushes a one's buttons?
Ooh. Oh, that's a tough question. I'm going to think about that one too.
Yeah, I've heard like slackers.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I do find that especially in like group projects or like collaborations.
Yes.
I don't know if any ones out there can relate to they're always the one that just takes on the entire group project and just like, you know, and that could also just be because you are like very perfectionist and because you do feel like you need to do everything right. It's like not letting go of those responsibilities. But it does push my buttons when people slack off or when people just don't respond or people are just like very like, I don't care.
Or they're like, well, she'll do it.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Right?
Yeah, that really pushes my buttons.
And you're like, I will do it, but guys.
Like seriously, like it shouldn't have to be the norm to rely on me to fix everything. One thing that like really does like get me is when people always rely on me to fix something. Or when I always feel like I'm the one like, I have to fix this again. And it's just one of those things where it's also a like me thing too. I do think that is like a lot of an ego thing where it's if I'm constantly feeling like, oh, here I am having to fix other people's problems. It's like, do you actually? Or is that just how you're feeling?
Right.
And is that just like where you're going into stress and you're irrationally taking on other people's like responsibilities and you're just like acting out of this like deep-seated frustration and almost anger of just being like, I can't believe I have to be the one that has to do this.
Right.
And so it's a matter of, well, can you delegate? And like using that like healthy part of a one to like organize and delegate tasks to other people and staying on top of things. Can you do that for other people? Can you say, hey, here's some tasks I need help with. Can you help me with this? And giving that freedom for other people to work and collaborate.
Yes.
Make it nice.
And make it good. We're all on the same team.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, yep. I can see how that would push a one's buttons and other types, I'm sure, but a one's buttons, that would definitely. And I think too, I'm thinking about that thinking, it's probably healthy for you to say or think, I don't have to fix it because God isn't always calling you to fix it.
Yes.
And so releasing that too.
Yes. And it's also finding the beauty in imperfection because there is no like perfect thing.
True.
And so that's been a huge area of growth with me as the literal perfectionist is realizing that there is no perfect apart from Christ alone. And so really finding that aspect of like, okay, where can I see the beauty and imperfection and where can I see like how the Lord really comes in and fills that gap and how like we're imperfect, but he's perfect still. And so it's really finding that beauty and saying like, well, I'm imperfect and I know that other people are imperfect too. And so it's again operating in that grace aspect of having grace and finding grace for other people in their imperfections and forgiving out of that too. So I think that can be a really big issue with me is like, I don't tend to hold grudges, I don't feel like, but a lot of times it can come in the form of being nitpicky and being critical and just being you didn't do this the other time, so why are you doing it again? And then it's like, that is unforgiveness. Right. I am holding on to unforgiveness. So, it is a form of unforgiveness. I need to recognize that. Yeah.
But that's good though. Like you said, again, you're recognizing it. That's the growth. And we're never going to arrive.
Yeah.
Until we get to heaven. We won't arrive. We're never going to get to a point where I learned it all. I did it all. Nope. And I think as long as we're here on earth, we're constantly learning about ourselves and learning how to have grace for others. And that's why I teach the Enneagram. Yeah. It's because I believe it gives us such an eye-opening experience on learning other people's types, and that your expectation cannot be that everyone else shows up like a type 1. Yeah. And I cannot expect everyone to show up as a peacemaker. Yeah. You know? And it drives me crazy. I'm like, why wouldn't you want peace? Drives you crazy. Why wouldn't you want everything right? Right? Yes. But we cannot put that on them because that's not their type every time. Yeah. So.
Exactly.
All right, guys, that's good stuff. Okay, so we're almost done, but I haven't done this with my other interviews very much, but I want to get into subtypes with you because you do understand the Enneagram so well. And I would like to kind of, let's dissect this together and figure out what is your subtype. I know you might already know it, but I'll go over the 3 of them in case you guys out there don't know what they are. And then we can kind of, get down to which one is most developed in you. Yeah. Which one is like your second, like, oh, that's moderately developed. And then usually one's a blind spot. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. All right, so the subtypes, or also known as the instincts of a type 1. You've got the self-preservation, you've got the social, and you've got the sexual. It also can be known as the one-to-one, but I like to teach you both because you can hear it both ways. Yep. And the sexual, you're gonna see that it's called the SX, the social is SO, and the self-preservation is an SP. And so I just like to teach it so that you know and you're educated on this, but let's dive into the self-preservation, which is this subtype. They can represent a true perfectionist, aiming to perfect themselves and less focused on perfecting others. They repress their resentment and instead use that energy to refine themselves in all areas of life, such as nutrition, finance, fitness. And then their defense mechanism converts their resentment into warmth and friendliness towards others. This keeps others from seeing the degree in which their inner critic is constantly berating them. And they are responsible, neat, structured, punctual, and need to control chaos and carefully plan out their lives. Okay, so that's the self-preservation. And the social one. This subtype sees themselves as the perfect role model for others. They pride themselves in finding the right way to do something, having the perfect stance on all issues or problems, and demonstrating their correct ways to others. They are often skilled and inspirational teachers. They can also be quite rigid, holding fast to what they think of what is right, not allowing room for other people's interpretations or perspectives. So their teaching mentality can lead to a sense of superiority and judgment. And so that's that social. And then the last one, the sexual or the one-to-one. This is actually the counter type. This is the one that actually wouldn't look like your average one. So every type has a counter type, and this is the one where you're like, they say they're a 1, but they don't look like a 1. Well, it means their cores are the same, but they might look a little different because they're the sexual one, which means this subtype is more accurately described as a reformer, focusing on perfecting others and society than perfecting themselves. They express their anger more than any other of the 2 subtypes to improve others and get what they desire. They believe they have the right and obligation to change society. They know the right way things should be and voice it passionately. This is the counter type and can appear like a type 8 because they are more impulsive and express their anger outwardly. So, okay, which one do you most lean towards? What would you say is your subtype?
I would say my subtype of those 3 would be self-preservation. Okay. Yeah. And I really do feel that way because, especially when you hit on inner critic, that one is something that really resonates well with me. I'll often say, like, when people come at me with like criticism, it's great because I can reframe it to see it as an opportunity of growth. But then again, also time it can be really wounding to me because I think a lot of times with ones, if you come at me and assault my character and you assault like those decisions, that can be super, super wounding to me. And it really hits on that core fear of being bad. Because what you're doing is, and maybe not even thinking about it, but what you're doing is it feels like you're accusing me. It feels like you're telling me I'm wrong or I'm bad. And instantly I begin to close up. And I'll say this often too, for everything that you say to me, don't worry, my inner critic has said it twice over. And I think
I've heard that about a lot.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we are the most hardest on ourselves. And that really has become an area where it takes a lot of introspection for me of saying, okay, whose voice am I really listening to right now? Am I listening to myself, or am I listening to God really talking to me and saying, it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to do this? And a lot of times I do find myself getting wrapped up in that inner critic, in that really just like nitpicking thing. It keeps me a lot of times from saying things because a lot of times I'll just instantly say to myself, that's not really like great, that doesn't matter, or you're not saying that eloquently enough, they don't get what you're saying. And that's where I kind of move into that like aspect of being like a social one that might be like my other subtype, that's like the less used one, is that like when I do kind of get over my inner critic, that's where I can move towards helping others, being an advocate, and also voicing that a little bit. And so that's where I can kind of see me being self-preservation and then into a social when I can finally silence my inner critic.
Right. Okay, so what we've found out about you is you're a 1 with a 2-wing, SPSO. It's a lot. Oh my gosh, that's great. That's great. And so I love that. And so really the SX, the SX is probably more like not very developed. And that's okay. All these instincts aren't usually developed in everybody, right? And it's, what did you have to use? And that's how that instinct got really developed. And then it sounds like you use that self-preservation one the most, and then the social the second. So
and that's interesting too. I really like how you framed like that third subtype being kind of our blind spot, because it doesn't, like, to say that it doesn't exist is like wrong, because it's saying like it does exist.
It does.
It just might be a blind spot.
Come out later.
Exactly. And I think also a lot of times now in my life where I'm seeing that kind of come in more. So in college, like I'm an RA, and so a lot of times I'm finding myself having to be that advocate and that voice for other people. And so that's where I can really rely on that subtype, especially when it becomes to like, there's times where I really do have to use my voice. And there's times where I have to use it in a way that might come off on others as like being really direct and like impulsive. But it's getting my point across because I'm advocating for other people. And that's where I think a lot of times like that sexual subtype works in tandem with that injustice part of being a 1. Of saying like, this is really like, I'm moving above and beyond myself because I'm advocating for other people. And it's oftentimes in the tests that I've taken where I've discovered being a 1, I find that I empathize most with 3s and 8s because of that really like strongholds, like I'm going to defend others. And so that's where I really have my love for type 8s. If you're a type 8 out there, I love you so much.
My husband's an 8.
I was like, I really do have...
And you must understand them really well.
I do. Because it comes from that place of, I think a lot of times 8s can get a bad rap of being so just like aggressive and conflict forward, but at their core, it's because they defend others. It's because they're defending others, they're defending themselves. And I have a lot of respect for people that do that because it goes above and beyond yourself and it moves towards defending others. And I think a lot of times like people can like mistake that for being aggressive. But if we look at an example like Christ, like he really defended the poor, the weak, the sick, the people that didn't have a voice. And so I have a lot of respect for that aspect. And so for me as a 1, that subtype of being that sexual subtype comes out, especially now where I'm seeing like there's an issue of injustice here. How can I use my voice to advocate for others and stand strong and stand firm in that? So
that's good. And it doesn't surprise me that all 3 instincts are kind of or like one's really developed, one's kind of developed, and then one's starting to develop because you are so self-aware. And because you have researched this, right? And I mean, as soon as we start to research that one that's underdeveloped, well, that brings awareness. You know, and all the instincts are good and are needed. And so it's not that we can just say like, oh, we're never going to use that. Those are instincts, you know, God-given instincts, I think. And so that's so I can totally understand why you're like, yeah, and I can even use that at times.
Yeah, especially like taking that area of growth too. And so like, because this is a newer subtype that I'm kind of like leaning into, it is so new. And so it is like feeling things out. And then because I am so heavy on that self-preservation, it's a lot of give and take with, all right, when I use my voice, how do I silence my inner critic of being like, you used your voice in the wrong way. That wasn't, that wasn't eloquently spoken. And so it's really been like a lot of trial and error recently of saying like, how can I advocate? How can I be the voice and still feel good about like what I said? Did it get my point across? Did I advocate for the right people? Did I make it about me? Like what's going on here? And so it is like dipping my toes in and then pulling back with that like inner critic. It's a lot of give and take, but it's a learning process too.
Yeah, and it always will be.
Yeah, thank goodness.
This is so good. All right, so this has been amazing.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like, I would totally want you to come back. Would you, like, want to come back again? Okay, so guys, there's definitely going to be a part 2 because 1, I want to cover stances. I want to cover triads. I mean, let's go, like, even deeper. Let's go in. And so, but I want to end with this. Last question.
Okay.
How has the Enneagram helped you in your life?
Oh my goodness. It's done so much for me. And so, I think really the Enneagram has helped me see perspectives of other people. And so like, not only has it not only has it helped me be like really more introspective with how I act and how my actions affect others, but it's helped me develop a newfound sense of empathy. And so it's really helped me develop that empathic concern for other people and saying, this is maybe where you're coming from, because like you said, I can't expect everybody to come at me as a 1. And so you're coming at me as a different type. How can I be more empathetic to your needs? And how can I kind of see your perspective of where you're coming from? Because it helps me take a far more collaborative approach on these kind of projects, in life in general. And that's something that I do touch on too in my thesis. And so, so so that's something that I've been studying too as I've been diving deeper into the Enneagram in my undergraduate thesis.
Oh, you gotta tell them.
Oh, yes.
Tell them about that.
So I am a student at Arizona State University in Barrett the Honors College. They do require a undergraduate thesis project to be completed, and so over my years in college, I've completed a research project that really delves into empathetic relationships and how the Enneagram can help see those. And that's especially been developed through a working environment, through a working sphere. And so basically my research was really based off the question of how can we further develop empathy or track a development of empathy in a working environment using the Enneagram. Because there are so many other personality type quizzes that are out there that many companies do use already, like Myers-Briggs. I'm already thinking of like True Colors, everything like that. So how can the Enneagram as a personality index, but really as like a personal index, really help understand where we're coming from? How can it develop empathy because we now understand not only where we're coming from, but where others are coming from too. So.
Okay, am I gonna get to read that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'm like, I totally need to read this.
Yes.
It sounds amazing.
Yes.
But, all right, guys, so that's all I have today. Claire, thank you so much.
Thank you, Hillary.
You've been wonderful, and there will be a part 2. We're just, right now, we're declaring this part 1. But yeah, so if you want to find me on social media or anything, you want to like, okay, where can I find you, Hillary? I'm at Hillary_McCaskey_coaching. I have a website, EnneagramandCoaching.com. And then Claire, what is your Instagram if they want to find you?
So my Instagram handle is @ClaireElise So it's my full name. So be on the lookout for it.
Because people might still want to ask you some questions.
Absolutely.
That's okay.
You are more than welcome to DM me, shoot me a DM, and
perfect.
Ask those questions. I'll try to answer them my best.
I love it. And I'll put it in the description box below. But again, that's all I have today. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Guys, we're almost at 1,000. I'm so excited.
That's awesome.
And then also like the video because apparently YouTube needs you guys to like the videos so that they know to share them more. And so yeah, subscribe and like the video. Leave me any comments below. And I'll try to answer anything I can. And until next time, bye guys.
Bye guys. Take 1.
Okay, I just have to. I'm like making sure I don't have any lipstick on my teeth.
I'll get you. Good.
Okay. Here we go. All right, fluff the hair. Fluff the hair.
I was like, dry shampoo, don't get me now.
So we should.
We should be fine.
Yeah, we should be fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine, guys.